In our last video, we're going to look at how the different elements that we have explored fit together into a delegation process that will help us achieve effective delegation. This process consists of 6 steps that we will look at. The first step towards effective delegation is to choose the task that you want to delegate. Decide if you will delegate the entire task or just parts of the task. You really need to get a good understanding of what skills and experience will be necessary to complete this task. You need to also assess the size and the urgency of the task, and this will lead you on to step 2, where you choose the appropriate person to complete the task. And as a leader, you should have a good understanding of each level your team member is at. When you are planning on completing a task, it's important to take in the element of time. If a task is urgent, you might need to delegate this task to a member in your team who has got the skill set and the experience already, so that the task can be completed quickly. However, if a task is not urgent, then you might want to decide on a member who does not have the skill set or experience. And then you can guide and support them. Remember that one of the most important jobs of a leader is to grow and develop your team. So try and think to yourself, who would benefit from learning this skill? The next step is to have a plan. You must ensure that you communicate clearly the objective and the goals of the task, and always provide clear instructions. Remember the 4 different stages in the situational leadership model. Decide what block the person you are delegating to is in. And then make sure you understand how much instruction, support, and guidance you need to give that person in order for them to complete the task successfully. When you have decided on the appropriate person to fulfill the task, there are a few practical steps that you need to go through. Firstly, you need to provide context about the task. Why are we doing this and why is it important? Next, you need to find out how they feel about taking on this task. Are they happy to do it? Do they have any questions, concerns, or fears? And once they have agreed to take on this task, you need to give precise details and be extremely clear on the deadline. Next, you need to make sure that you both decide on the decision-making process. Will the individual be able to make decisions on their own, or would you prefer them to approach you first and talk things through? Use the delegation model for that, the scale of 1 to 5, to figure out how much independence they have and how much monitoring you will be doing. And that brings us on to the 5th point, monitoring. It's important that each person knows their part and they know how much you will be checking on, and you understand how much guidance and support to provide for the task to be fulfilled successfully. And lastly, you need to end with clarity. Expectation of the task, deadlines, performance, and monitoring need to all have been established. There needs to be absolutely no room for misunderstanding. The delegation model is a super resource to help establish these clear boundaries and expectations. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to go and develop your own delegation model similar to the one on your screen. Now back to the delegation cycle. The next process and the next step is implementation. And this is where the individual begins to carry out the task. Step 5 is to observe and assist. And this is where the monitoring comes in, where you will provide direction and support when needed. And here you will use a combination of the situational leadership model along with the delegation model that your team is using. Step 6 is review and feedback. Was the task goal met? You need to analyze the success and the failures and provide feedback to your team member who completed the task. Now, remember not to be too quick to blame failure on the individual, because the most common reason that a task fails is that the selection of the person to carry out the task was done incorrectly and without sufficient preparation and communication. We all learn from our mistakes, and it is an important part of the learning process. As leaders, you need to take the time to possibly explain or demonstrate something a couple of times. Everyone learns at a different pace. And as always, you need to provide feedback. Give credit where credit is due. Make changes to the way you delegate, and try again. Remember that delegation is a skill, and it will take you many attempts before you master it and begin to delegate effectively. When it is done right, you will provide a safe and encouraging environment for your team to grow and learn new skills, which will in turn show that you trust them and have confidence in them, which will no doubt leave you with a keen and motivated team. And to end it all, I want you to remember that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to delegation. Be flexible, be adaptable, be a leader.